For better or for worse, F1 the movie is exactly the movie I thought it was going to be. It's probably exactly the movie you thought it was going to be too. There are no big surprises, there are no big shifts, there is no sleight of hand with the marketing, wrapping it up to make you think that it's going to be one movie and then it turns out to be another. F1 the movie is probably going to be your dad's next favorite comfort movie. But with a lot of the same creative team, how does it stack up against a movie like Top Gun Maverick? Is this the summer blockbuster? And is it worth your time? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily or La Movie Mija. I'm a part-time filmmaker, full-time movie lover, and this is my review of F1. Thank you again for checking out my video. Before we get too far into the review, I will let you know I know next to nothing about Formula One racing, so this is coming from somebody who just loves movies and I am judging it based on that perspective, but there are a lot of cool insights I found out after watching the movie that I'll share throughout my review. And this review will be totally spoiler free, but like I said, you probably can figure out where this movie goes. So let's get into it. In the 1990s, Sonny Hayes was Formula One's most promising driver until an accident on the track nearly ended his career. 30 years later, the owner of a struggling Formula One team convinces Sonny to return to racing and become the best in the world. Driving alongside the team's hotshot rookie, Sonny soon learns that the road to redemption is not something you can travel alone. Directed by Joseph Kosinski, the film stars Brad Pitt, Damson Idris, Carrie Condon, Javier Bardem, Sarah Niles, and Tobias Menzies. Like I mentioned before, I know next to nothing about F1 racing, but I do have a lot of friends who are big fans of the sport, so I was really curious to see if this movie was going to turn me into a fan myself. That's the easiest way to get someone like me invested in a sport I know nothing about, is using the drama of a story to reel me in. All I need is one or two good montages explaining the difficulty of a task or an event that I previously know nothing about to get me really invested in the story. However, I'm disappointed to report that I walked out of the theater probably knowing less than I did before. What I did learn, at least according to this movie, is that the men in F1 racing are dripped down in some of the most beautiful outfits, they have amazing taste in jewelry, and there is a criminally large amount of champagne that is wasted. But if I decenter my own needs going into this movie and think about maybe this is doing fan service for people who are fans of F1 racing, I am curious to know what people who are very knowledgeable at the sport have to say about this movie. And I'm not just critiquing the fact that they don't really dive into the sport of F1 as a personal need that I needed going into this movie. I do think that it does the whole film a disservice overall. Because the central theme of this story is the tension between this old school, not media savvy, very cowboy, westernized, rugged hero that is Brad Pitt, rubbing up against the hotshot newcomer who's probably a little bit too flashy and a little bit too concerned with what everybody else thinks, that is Damson Idris. And they're supposed to at some point come together and be teammates, shake and bake. But I don't think this movie actually ever explains how F1 is a team sport. So in that way, I feel like there is a big disconnect between the story they're trying to sell us with the drama of the sport. Instead, we get a lot of instances of people talking at us about how this is supposed to be a team sport and how we're all supposed to work together. But on a technical level, all you really see is a bunch of people behind computers and then some really cool racing sequences. But we can't undercut the cool racing sequences because these are actually pretty phenomenal. The way that you are just immersed into that car. I saw this movie in IMAX and I was definitely gripping my hands so tight throughout every single race. It is so claustrophobic. The idea of being stuck in those cars and then having to go that fast around the track. The sound design, you have the score from Hans Zimmer all beating around you, and there are some really truly white knuckle thrilling moments in this movie. However, I never really felt the stakes of the story and there was never anything really at risk for any of the characters, but you can ultimately separate this movie into three different categories: really cool kick-ass racing sequences, really vibey montages, and the lackluster dialogue bits that happen in between the races and montages. Except for whenever we saw Javier Bardem on screen. Javier Bardem and Brad Pitt, that is a buddy comedy movie that I need to see ASAP. Javier Bardem is so charming. He's so magnetic. He's so big in this movie. I really wanted to see more of him. Brad Pitt as our lead was a little underwhelming for me. I feel like mostly the movies I've seen of him where I really liked him, he's playing opposite somebody who's more of a straight man, where he gets to be the rugged cool cowboy against the more buttoned up type. And maybe there was a different cut of this film that had more of that between him and the other lead, Damson Idris, but in the end there wasn't really a lot of connection between the two, so the teammate part of this movie never comes to fruition. And as incredible as those racing sequences are, they are a technical marvel. They should be experienced on the biggest screen possible with the best surround system that you can get your hands on. Everything else falls to the wayside and feels like an afterthought. There isn't enough meat to the plot to make this a real big sports drama. There's not enough character development in this movie to make it feel like an impactful drama. There's not enough funny in this movie for it to be a comedy. There's not enough bonding in this movie for it to be a buddy adventure. If we look at it like a dish, it's very well plated. There's very vibrant colors. It's really appealing on the outside, but there is no hero flavor. They're all just mildly thrown together. F1 the movie is more like a sporting event and less like a cinematic experience that you're going to want to revisit over and over again. However, I do think that this movie is going to pull a lot of people into the theater because for the first time in a while, this is a movie that is geared towards adults that you can watch with your parents. Because again, there's not any excess of anything. It's a very safe sandwich. But I hope I don't deter you from watching this movie if you are the least bit curious. If you are a fan of F1, there is probably something for you to enjoy. If you are someone who loves a thrilling adventure flick, or if you are somebody who's just looking desperately to watch something with your parents that's not a children's movie that you know you can all get out of that experience safe with. F1 the movie is that movie. But just like how children deserve well-written, well-structured, well-executed media, dads also deserve some really great dad comfort movies. Something that really irked me was finding out that Simone Ashley was cut out of this movie completely. Like, she was supposed to be in this film and she was reduced down to like a cameo appearance. And I was like watching this movie and there's like one subplot with a character that's played by Callie Cook. She is like one of the pit like workers who like changes the tires real fast. That's also something I learned. F1 uses a lot of tires. But that side story with Callie Cook's character just kind of felt like shoved in there, and I was like, wow, we really could have used some of those minutes back with Simone Ashley. Maybe that version of the movie had a little bit more spice. Ultimately, F1 the movie is less of a movie and more of a sporting event, but somehow has less drama. But it is a movie that offers you a mildly good time with some good air conditioning should you need it this summer. Just like the popcorn you brought into the movie theater with you for the film, it's not going to fill you up, but it's going to be good while it lasts. There you have it. That is my review of F1 the movie. If you made it this far, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. I post one new movie review every single week. And if you want even more movie news, reviews, and personal insights from me, you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Letterboxd at Movie Mija. Let me know what you thought about the film, especially if you're a fan of the sport, and if you think that this deserves the title of Best Racing Movie Ever. Alright, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!